university administrator, a dean, because I couldn't take myself seriously long enough. And I'd be wanting to argue with everybody about something. And so I realized, and the creationists, in fact, taught me a lot about this. They said, Mike, we understand where you're at, but don't you see that you people make just as much of a religion out of evolution, out of Darwinism, as we do out of Genesis or Christianity? So they said, you have to realize a lot of this is not science versus religion. It's Christian religion versus secular religion. Well, of course, my immediate reaction was, oh, no, you're absolutely wrong. I'm an Englishman, I'm a philosopher, I know about these sorts of things. But, increasingly, I go home, and perhaps in the middle of the night, I'd wake up and say, oh my God, those little, I won't use the words that I would use, those little, what you might call it, they might have a point. They might have a point. Not me, but others. And so I increasingly, from about 1990, made myself probably more disliked by the evolutionists than by the creationists, because I said, I don't think that evolutionary theory, Darwinian theory, has to be a religion. I think that what biologists do in biology departments is science. It's not religion, it's science. They're not reading Genesis. They're going out, because in Canada, they're going out in the summers and counting turtles or something equally boring. And I said, that's science, that's not religion. However, I'm kind of uncomfortable because I feel that a lot of people are making more out, some scientists, but not always some, are making more out of evolution, Darwinism. They want to push it as a kind of world picture, a kind of secular world picture, which you kind of make a faith commitment to. And I mean, there are some things which come up, for instance, a lot of Darwinians are very keen on Darwin Day. That's Darwin's birthday was February the 12th. And so they like to celebrate Darwin Day. Well, that's always made me very uncomfortable because, there's also Jesus Day, Christmas. And I worry that Darwin Day is basically making Darwinism, as it were, not so much equal or non-equal to Christianity, but on the same plane. That's what I mean. Not whether one's better or worse, but the same kind of thing. And I find that very worrying. And of course, then the new atheists came along in the first decade of the new century. And, you open up something like The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins. And honestly, he sounds like an Old Testament prophet. The God of the Old Testament is the most vile, heinous, because he doesn't say this, Donald Trump-like person that the world has ever known. Well, that's not philosophy. That's not science. That's religion. I mean, honestly, if you put The God Delusion in the Bible, the Old Testament, as one of the books by the minor prophets, because Richard would be upset to be called a minor prophet, it would be perfectly comfortable. I mean, it reads a bit like the book of Job, anyway. And so, God says, I'm the boss, I make the decisions. Well, Richard Dawkins says, I'm the boss, I make the decisions. So I have been arguing for a long time, and I'm almost glad to say this makes me very unpopular, but I've been trying to show again and again how Darwinism has been more than just a science, but as it were, a philosophy, if you like, a perspective, or whatever. At one level, I don't mind that. I mean, if people want to say, I want to write a novel, let's say, and I want to show how sexual selection works, so I'm going to show how boys fall in girls and what sort of factors get involved, and is there money involved? Do people make decisions about whom they're going to marry because they're in love or because it's going to be better socially? And I mean, there's been books written about that sort of thing. I mean, George Eliot's Daniel Deronda, I think, is an awful lot about that. And I don't mind that. I mean, I think it's perfectly legitimate for, let's say, novelists or poets too. I think it's perfectly legitimate for these people to take Darwin's take any scientific ideas and work with them and run with them and see what kind of sense they can make out of them. I mean, you take, for instance, H.G. Wells and the Time Machine. It's clear that Wells is working with ideas about relativity theory and what time is and how time isn't just something like that and how time, we might, and what the meaning of time. And I think it's perfectly legitimate for a scientist, for a novelist. In fact, I welcome it. I mean, I like to think that science is more than just science, that it is a cultural phenomenon. But when it starts to turn into a kind of meaning for life or meaning to life, I'm not going to stop people from doing it, but I want at least people to recognize what they're doing. How's that sound?